Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast. It's 2016, there's a lot of stuff happening, and we're here to inform you all about it.
Rarely is the question asked, how is our children learning?
My fellow Americans.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Our country is in serious trouble.
I did not send classified material, and I did not receive any material that was marked or designated classified.
But man is not free unless government is limited.
Bringing you opinions on historic, current, and international politics. Welcome to the Unnamed Political Podcast.
In this episode, we'll be discussing a variety of topics from the recent diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. We'll be covering the issue in Oregon with the militias. Is it okay to call militias at this point?
I don't know. You want to call them freedom fighters.
And the last topic, we'll be talking about stuff domestically. We'll be talking about the economy and the campaigns as we enter the 2016
clumping the campaigns and the economy together, just unfortunately for time constraints. But let's get started. The one that I think is the most pressing to Americans, not necessarily the world, would be the Oregon militia.
Yeah.
Or the 3%ers, as I've heard they're calling themselves.
Yeah, so a group of, I want to call them militia members.
Fine.
I think that's
We're gonna call them militia members. If you are one of them, don't be offended. I don't know if you are watching this, please give us free publicity.
Be a guest.
Yes.
So anyway, these guys took over a building on some Oregon nature reserve in Oregon that's owned by the federal government, and they're protesting this family called the Hammonds, who were arrested recently for burning a fire to cover up poaching.
Well, so there are two different claims to this. What the families claim is that they owned their land, and then the U.S. government basically said, no, your land's now part of a nature preserve, and that they kept living on it, and then they're claiming that they burned the land to make it, I can't remember if it was more fertile.
Probably.
But the U.S. government says that they were just arsonists who were angry.
Yeah.
So I think the government, in this one case, might have a bit of a say here, but I don't know. I think they definitely also do have a pretty strong case.
They do, yeah.
But so they were sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Right.
They got out. They were arrested again for charges I'm not sure about. So
I think it's arson again, actually.
Arson again?
I don't know what
so
they burned, though.
if they're double arsoning, that's where I'm kind of wondering their case is a little losing ground a bit for me. And then they decide to go and occupy this place, and they have been very vague about it. It says they just said they want to restore the people's constitutional rights, but for once, they aren't focusing on the Second Amendment, so it's a nice break.
The leader of these protests is some guy named, I think it was Ammon Bundy.
Yes, and that is the son of Clive and Bundy, so
who had that standoff last year.
So I think we're seeing like father like son, I suppose. But I think this is definitely something that liberals are going to try to seize on as a Second Amendment thing, and Republicans are going to, or not Republicans, and conservatives are just going to go and overall try to say, well, they should be doing this. So, I don't know, because I don't think this is a Second Amendment issue. I think it would be wrong for MSNBC to go and be like, hey, this is why we should take away your guns. No. But I also don't entirely agree with what these guys are doing. You?
I feel like,
and I don't, not really.
When they say that we're not terrorists, and they're saying we'll only, attack if we're provoked, right? We'll defend ourselves. I feel like they're waiting to get attacked.
That's one thing. Those sound very much like fighting words, in my opinion. So I don't agree with these guys.
Yeah, I know. I feel like they're waiting to get provoked, so then they can do something and stand up. And then maybe, this is a crazy theory, but use them kind of like martyrs.
You want to start the revolution?
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope these guys eventually just give up and realize that the government's not going to cave in and it's not going to provoke them and make these, involved into something worse.
Look, I'm all for smaller government and less involved government, but I do think in a case like this, the government does kind of need to stand up and basically say, you can't openly revolt against us. Right. They, I don't know, maybe analyze what was going on, reopen whatever cases they had, and see if they deserve reparations or whatever. Right. But they also do, unfortunately, will probably need to face punishment for whatever they're doing, although I'm not sure what charges would be brought against them.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if they're armed, I feel like they're almost expecting something.
That is the one thing. There is one individual there who traveled, he said, from Utah and is ready to die. So that's a little concerning. And by little, I mean a lot.
Yeah, I feel like they're waiting to literally get in a battle with the police.
That's always a little bit frightening. So, Jack, you compared this to Waco, Texas. They totally like the comparison, but you
Well, I think when I mean Waco, Texas, I mean like the siege and how the federal government just literally stood them out and then eventually evolved into something more violent. I hope it doesn't evolve into something like this, but I feel when people occupy something and are having a standoff, that would be something
I would disagree with Waco because one, Waco was fueled by religious fever, a cult,
and they shot first,
and it was on their it was like they didn't occupy it,
right.
It was their compound, and then the government came in,
and then they fired first. It's
and
not
also,
like they were provoked.
And also, like one of the reasons it became so violent was towards the end. Some of the people, they're like, holy cow, the Branch Davidian leader, he's not a prophet. So they kind of all started turning on each other. And I believe the second in command shot the prophet of the Branch Davidians before, and that just led to a ton of violence going on. So I don't think that'll happen here, because I think they're all kind of unified.
I don't think the infighting will happen, no.
No.
That's not the same.
I don't believe so. And one of the names that I've heard called is the 3% militia, or the 3%ers. And this is not because they're like the 99%, the 1%. It's because they claim that, not even claim, that approximately only 3% of colonists took up arms against the British, and they are that 3% today. So
I think that's actually a very prominent military group. I think I've heard of it before.
3%.
Before this, yeah.
Well, I don't really think this is going to evolve into anything at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to kind of be a big
I think
deal
it'll
for a
die
while,
out, just like the
and
ranch
I think
thing.
it's going to go.
When they had the ranch thing in Nevada, I think that's going to die out too.
I think it's going to stop, and unfortunately these guys are going to lose. Some of them are probably going to go to prison. Do you think there will be violence, though?
No. If it goes the way that they're planning, and they'll wait for maybe, I think the longest it would take for them to leave is probably a week, because then they're going to be like, why am I still here? I have to go back to work. Is it a good one?
Also, I think, and if it literally comes to it, the government can just starve them out.
Oh, I didn't anticipate that this would last this long. I thought they'd cave in and give us our land back. That's probably not what's going to happen.
And I don't think so. Obama, he won't be harsh on terrorists, but he will be hard on people who want their land. I'm joking. Well, that is true, but in this case, I think that the government is justified.
We can argue that later.
But speaking of terrorists, the Middle... No, I'm joking. I'm not going to be that stereotypical. The Middle East has terrorists in it, but if you're in the Middle East, you are not necessarily a terrorist by any means. The majority of people in the Middle East, ridiculously huge majority, are not terrorists. But speaking of tensions in the Middle East, we're switching there. Yep. Saudi Arabia and Iran have cut off diplomatic relations, and following with them, I believe it's Bahrain, the UAE, Kuwait.
I think Sudan was on there.
Sudan is one, not Kuwait. Sorry, Kuwaitis. All of our many Kuwaiti viewers.
We might have offended one.
But so what we're seeing is that apparently the Saudi government executed a Shiite scholar, cleric the other day, and the big deal here is the fact that there are basically two major interpretations of Islam. Two major, well, obviously not. There's hundreds of interpretations, but there are two major sects of Islam, similar to, I guess you would say, Catholics and Protestants and other sects of Christianity. Denominations. That's the perfect word for this, I hope. If anybody knows a lot more about Islam and would care to comment below, please do. But with that, basically, there are Sunnis and Shiites. And their big difference primarily stems from over who the first caliph was, i.e. who was the person who should have succeeded Muhammad.
Right.
We won't get into the details here, but basically there have been bigger differences and other divides of that. But so we have the Sunni are the larger group.
Yep.
The majority of Sunnis, they have a majority. I think they have a 100% majority in Saudi Arabia. In theory, Iraq, Sunni. We've also seen, just so that certain people get this, we aren't saying the vast majority of Sunnis are peaceful. ISIS is a Sunni group. Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party was a Sunni group.
Al Qaeda was a Sunni group too.
Yeah. Because the majority of these areas are in Sunni regions, but there is one area in the Middle East, because obviously Indonesia has more Muslims than anywhere else on earth.
Right.
But we're going to focus on the Middle East for this one. But there's one area in the Middle East that is not Sunni, and that is Iran.
Cool.
So Iran is the one kind of Shiite place, and it's believed that the tensions between Sunni and Shiite were one of the potential drivers, at least one of the big motivators in the Iran-Iraq War, although it was, which was waged during the late 20th century between Saddam and Iran. I just say Saddam because he was...
Whoever the Ayatollah was,
it wasn't Khomeini. I think Khomeini had died before then. I think it was Khomeini's successor.
Probably. And
probably multiple successors. But, so, there were vast political reasons, which we may go into later, but it was definitely one of the contributing facts why the war, I believe, was 10 years long. There was no definitive victor. Lots of chemical weapons were used. It was a very terrible, bloody war. But so we're seeing this, and now we're seeing tensions kind of rise again because they executed this guy, and now the Saudi embassy was attacked. Saudi embassy in Tehran was attacked, and
Saudi Arabia executed 47 people on the first day of 2016, and that cleric was one of them.
yes, well, Saudi Arabia does have I believe, one of, if not the highest. I think they have the highest execution rate in the world. They still do public beheadings.
I think it was several Iranians were killed too, so there was, I guess,
It is
some
kind
ground
of
for this.
both ways. And when we're seeing this, obviously, so they've basically, I believe they've told the Iranian ambassadors, basically, you guys have 2 days to get out of this country.
Is that what severing ties means in this case? I was just thought it was symbolic.
Oh no, severing ties means you take out the ambassadors, you take out take out the ambassadors, but you say get out of our country. We're not negotiating. There's no communications.
Right.
Kind of like what the U.S. had with Cuba up until recently, which I personally think we should have still had.
So does Saudi Arabia and Iran share a border? Because I was thinking, would they close down the border? I'm looking up right now.
I don't think
so.
they do.
Yeah, no.
They're separated because they definitely don't. Because you have the Saudis, Saudi Arabia, then you have Kuwait and Iraq, and then Iraq and Iran, and just Iraq
Probably
and Iran.
closing off
Kuwait
trade,
doesn't.
I'd assume, would be the next step.
I think that's a potential. So we're kind of seeing this is a very dangerous issue because again, conflicts between the different divisions in Islam have shown to kind of get bigger, and especially with the volatile situation in the Middle East and the fact that Iran is pretty much throwing the nuclear agreement out the window right off the bat.
Right.
We're kind of seeing some issues. I mean, for example, Iran, they were told in the agreement, you guys can't test fire these types of missiles.
Right.
I apologize for not giving the exact specifics. I will in a later episode, so I don't lose my credibility. But they were told you can't fire certain missiles. They immediately went on firing these missiles, and Obama's like, well, stop, because you said you wouldn't, and we trusted you. And then they launched missiles within, I think, the missiles landed within 100 or 1,500 yards of
very close
aircraft carrier. So obviously we're seeing them kind of saying they're doing what Russia did. You guys gave in, so now we're going to keep seeing how far we can push it. It's the same thing Assad did. When Obama said, here's the line in the sand. You don't cross it, he crosses it, they just move the line.
Hypothetically, in a war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, who do you think would win?
I think it would depend on
who backing them.
Who backs them.
Yeah.
Because it definitely, if it was just them on their own, they would.
That'd be a tough one. I think Iran would win in the end.
Ultimately, I think Iran would win, but
with no aid.
It would be definitely a difficult war to fight because due to the fact that they have no land border, the war would mostly have to consist of either airstrikes
or the Persian Gulf separates them. So you can see
a naval war. The naval war is one thing, but neither of them, both of them kind of have. I mean, Iran is these names, Saudi Arabia is, but they both do rely on a lot of foreign aid for some of these things. Right. They are obviously Saudi Arabia is not a country that really relies on foreign aid, but in terms of military support, the U.S. we have troops stationed in Saudi Arabia, so that could be a problem if Iran attacks Saudi Arabia and some U.S. troops get killed.
I could see Russia helping Iran. I think that would be.
Because Russia and Iran have been getting closer.
Strong relations.
So this could be World War III, guys. Oh boy.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, big time. I do not want World War III to happen at all.
Do you think we covered this issue enough?
I think we've covered this issue. We will continue to update you on it as it evolves. Hopefully, it won't.
Dies down, hopefully.
Yes. Moving on back to the U.S. I guess this time on a not as great note, slightly happier, but still pretty bad note.
Stocks.
U.S. economy doing a lot better than it was in 2008, but stocks have plummeted in the first day of trading.
Yay!
Isn't that great? So it's believed most likely. So we saw losses in China and we saw losses in Europe, and now we're seeing that the U.S. stock market is also falling, which I definitely think shows our dependency on China, which is kind of scary because China's run by a bunch of almost unelected officials in terms of democracy.
Sure.
You have to be part of the Communist Party. Yeah. They're the intelligentsia of the country in terms of governing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them aren't that great at governing. And when you have that mixed with this like state-monitored capitalism, and you have the state is a communist dictatorship, so to speak.
Yeah. Bad things will happen.
It's nerve-wracking. Because if we see, obviously, China's economy, as we've stated before, it's not on the brink of collapse. The whole government's not going to fall apart, like some people have said. But things could get bad for China, and that typically, at this point, guarantees that things will go bad for us. and bad for Europe, and and things go bad for Europe, they're more bad for us, and it's just a downward spiral that I don't think it would quite put us in the same spot. Actually, it definitely wouldn't put us in the same spot as 2008 unless we saw massive losses in China, but it could put us in a not a great spot to be.
Well, were these American stocks, did they plunge dramatically, or was it just
They
minor?
did plunge. I'm going to check the statistics right now. So we had, they started in 2016 with we're getting this from CBS, so I'm just going to read from CBS right now.
Incredible.
U.S. stocks started 2016 with their biggest intraday sell-offs in September 2015.
Yay.
The Dow dropped 423 points.
Yeehaw. That's a big percent.
2.4%.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
One day.
to 17,002 at 12:25 p.m. Eastern. The S&P 500 shed 2.3% or 48 points down to 1,995, and NASDAQ fell 2.8% or 141 points to 4,866.
Losing 3% in a single day.
So this is not good. It's not the end of the world. It's
No.
not close to the end of the world. I try to keep up to date on economics, but it's not quite as strong as I'd like it to be. So this is motivation to keep learning and keep working towards it. But if numbers are going down, that typically means for most people it's not good. But when we're seeing NASDAQ falling this much, the Dow dropping this much, one of the big things they're saying, oh, the economy's coming back, the Dow's closing at all these higher numbers, it's setting records.
Right.
And now it's falling. I mean, the Dow isn't the, say, end-all, be-all of the American economy, but
Right.
it is a decent indicator.
Well,
and if it plummets, it's a decent indicator.
Well, I mean, it looks on that graph there. It seems like it's going like this. So maybe it's just a temporary thing, maybe?
Well, this is in the one day.
Oh.
This is one day. So.
All right, well, it's still pretty unpredictable as it's going like.
Well,
up and
obviously,
down.
nobody can predict the future with stocks. I mean,
Right.
you truly. That's why stockbrokers either make a ton or you're dead. You die in the water.
Hopefully this is temporary.
It's so unpredictable. But yeah, I hope this will be temporary. I see no reason to short everything and start panicking.
Sell everything.
Retreat to the bunker.
Yeah.
But I think we will also continue to keep you updated on this. As we may be trying to expand the show into more update-worthy things, in addition to guests.
Yeehaw.
And now,
guests.
Yes, we
got
do
some good guests.
We do have guests coming, but we'll discuss at the end, because lastly, we want to discuss the one thing that truly is near and dear to our hearts. Donald Trump. No. Donald, you're not near my heart.
But the elections.
But the elections are near and dear to my heart, and in the elections, it is kicked off. And when anything kicks off in these elections, with this particular one, Trump and or Hillary or both are involved. Yeah. And over Christmas, we did see the Donald start to, in my opinion, reasonably attack the Clintons over the fact that Hillary's now using Bill to kind of raise support. Yeah. So he's kind of saying, well, if Hillary is playing her whole campaign off of, well, I'm a woman and Donald is sexist, which I'm not going to argue on that, but I'm just saying, but if Hillary's whole, like, not her whole campaign, but a huge chunk of her campaign is, I'm the first woman president. She even said that in the debate. What makes me different from Obama? I'm a woman. That was her difference, so not a very good one, in my opinion. Don't vote for somebody because of their gender or their colors. Can vote for their policies.
Vote for their quality.
Thank you. And so, so we're seeing Hillary. She's definitely, she's released Bill, basically. She's released him, and all said, well, he's clearly not the nicest person when it comes to women. Let's just say stuff happened in the late 90s, and in 1999 he was in a spot of bother. And so Trump has really been pointing that out, and but obviously this isn't going to kill Hillary. I don't think anything will kill her at this point.
No, she's...
Bernie's not going to catch up. No. It's going to be Hillary versus... I'm really praying it's not Trump.
No, because that's a loss, immediate loss.
Oh yeah. But so we're seeing this this sort of thing happening, and also overall throughout the world, I'm just saying, if I can't emphasize enough, don't vote for somebody just because they're a woman. I mean, Carly Fiorina, she's also a great person, but again, I think it is. I think it is a quite a bit of a thing where the left is kind of like, where I think it's very, in my opinion, just kind of disgusting the things you're seeing, where it's like, oh, Ben Carson, we have a black guy for president. Oh, I bet he's awesome. Oh, he's a Republican. He's not a real black guy unless you're a liberal. You're not a real woman. You're not a real black guy. I don't think we should create that. 'Cause what you're doing is saying, because of the color of your skin, because of your gender, because of your beliefs, you have to fall into this category. Which, it's discriminatory.
No, it's sexist. Incredibly sexist.
Yeah, sexist, racist.
Terrible.
So we're seeing all of these things. That's unfortunate. And again, I don't want to sound like a sexist here, and I am not. But I'm saying,
You're
when
not.
we're seeing people say they put a ton of faith in somebody specifically because they're female, we are seeing some things lose. For example, in Brazil, they currently have a female president whose name is now slipping me, and I'm sorry, I'll get back to you on the facts because I keep forgetting this. I really don't want some internet troll to go and drag me out. If you do, be my guest. But one of her big campaign promises was, or one of her big campaign issues was, "Hey, I'm a woman. You like diversity." And she was Brazil's first female president, but she also did have, obviously, a campaign, but now it has gone downhill. And I'm not saying the people of Brazil elected her because she's a woman. They elected her because of her policies, which have turned out to not be the best policies. And this is another issue, because we're having Brazil's economy is going down. Where not only do they have an Olympics coming up, which has proven in the past to never be good for your economy, unless you're China, because
what's to lose?
Nothing's bad for your economy except yourself. Your dirty communist government. But so we're seeing that if they get in trouble, they are a huge country. They're one of the largest developing economies in the world. In fact, I think they might be the largest developing economy.
Right.
So if Brazil goes down, they're going to take a lot of people with it and definitely ruin a lot of people's wanting to invest in the developing world. If you're seeing something like this, this at points has seemed quote-unquote too big to fail.
Right.
Brazil, if it fails, this could hurt the world.
It'll be felt.
All right, so I suppose that concludes our weekly update. We'll come up with a witty name for it at some point. Feel free to suggest any in the comments section below. And tell us what you want to see in the future. Jack's going to get us our Instagram followers who we're going to read. Let's see if we can find some of the ones who have commented or one of the people who have liked our posts.
Do you want to talk about guests?
So guests, we do have several guests in the works. And I'm serious, they're legitimate. They are very good guests. We've had some good guests in the past, and we'd like to get some of them back. We're in talks with Mr. Gabriel Mesa, who has not appeared in person on the show, as he was only here on audio.
Who hasn't appeared on video.
Video, let's say. Yes, right. Mr. Colin Duran, Mr.
Have him back.
Mikhail Dupre.
Yusheng.
We might wait a little while for Yusheng.
We'll wait a little bit before he comes back.
And we also are in the works with some, for once, some adults. So because that's where journalistic integrity. It's our true journalism is shown. Not really journalism, but our reporting skill and our ability to show people what the world's like and get unique and diverse opinions on what America and the world is like.
Like Yusheng.
Yep.
Alright, I'll read the names out. To spare you.
Yeah, we're going to try to also keep it quite a bit more PG than that episode from now on. Don't worry, this is going to be the kid-friendly show. Hopefully.
Right. You ready?
Yeah, alright, let's go.
Alright, Christian_conservative.
Christian conservative.
Cool guy.
I don't know if that's your first name or you're Christian. I'm assuming it's that.
Yeah. Still. So, Print Liberation.
Print Liberation. Are these people who liked our post?
These are followers.
Followers. I was saying we should check people.
Let's do a couple likers. Let's do a couple likers.
Because likers are usually followers.
On that Trump photo.
Trump photo. If you saw our Trump Christmas photo,
got like 70 likes.
70 likes. That's a big number for us.
All right. So we have Panda Lard.
Panda Lard.
Shout out to you.
Great name. Very unique. I'm actually impressed that you were able to come up with that. Good job. Keep up Panda Larding.
Hotline Trump.
Hotline Trump.
I think we get one more.
I think that's good. I think two more.
Oh, we'll get two. I'm feeling good today. We'll give 6.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a local one or something.
North Ridges Publications.
North Ridges Publication. Not sure where that is, but it's very formal sounding and very professional. I enjoy that name.
Going for a local one now.
Local one. Who could this be?
T-Abate 40.
Travis.
Shout out to you.
You're my bae.
You're my bae. All right.
I hope I'm using that correctly.
I think you're doing fine.
I'm a little out of step with the modern teenager. No, don't worry. But Travis, come on the show.
You're my boy. Yeah, be a guest one
Yes,
day.
please do. All right. So I suppose that concludes it. So please tell us what you want to see on the show in the future. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm Clark Wahlberger.
Hey, I'm Jack Horvath.
See you next time.